Thank you, Jeff and Jem, for a fantastic opening session. It's fascinating to hear how MPA have been able to stay true to its mission and to build a flourishing business in just 4 years. My name is B. Hayes Thakur, and I lead marketing and partnerships at Keegan, an ARM company. My role is focused on nurturing collaborative business initiatives with partners in advanced connectivity and security, helping businesses think differently about the possibilities of tomorrow. I'm extremely excited to be hosting the first panel session of the day, covering how startups can create a product today that's fit for the next decade of compute. I'd like to start by asking everyone on my panel to introduce themselves.
Hi, B. My name is Michał Gabrielczyk, Head of Edge AI at Cambridge Consultants. We're product developers and technology consultants. So that means we work as an innovation partner with our customers to help them create new technologies, new products and services, which help them redefine their markets. And my particular focus is around AI and the intersection with IoT and how we can use those two technology megatrends to develop new experiences and services.
Hi, B. Thanks for having me in this panel. This is Adil. I'm the head of products at EdgeQ, leading the product roadmap and PNL. At EdgeQ, we are the backbone of 5G revolution, connecting billions of people and a lot of devices. Our vision is to provide 5G network with lightness, simplicity, and at the economics of Wi-Fi. We are delivering 5G plus AI base station on a chip, which is very customizable, adaptable, softwareized, and cheap to deploy.
Great. So I'm Rich Stanky. I'm the MD and co-founder at Jangala. We're a not-for-profit humanitarian technology company, so kind of probably quite different from other people on this panel. And our mission, our first mission we've set ourselves, is to provide effective and affordable means of providing connectivity to a number of the humanitarian and development situations kind of around the world that need to be connected in challenging situations. So it's an area that's kind of ripe for innovation. Our hope is to kind of commercialize that innovation, be able to feed that back into our charitable purpose, and grow and expand and focus on these areas of innovation that will be sorely needed in a future marked by kind of climate change and its effects.
Hi everyone, I'm Alistair Hanlon. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer with PragmatIC Semiconductor. We're a manufacturer of low-cost flexible electronics.
Hello everyone, hello B. My name is Paul. I'm an R&D project leader at imec. We have something in common with Rich. imec is also non-profit. It's actually a research institute. But one part of imec is there to help startups implementing their chip ideas.
Well, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to have you at this event today, and thank you so much for being here with us. I'd like to begin by discussing some of the challenges the industry is facing and how startups can overcome some of these challenges. Are you able to share your perspectives on the challenges you're seeing and how, as an industry, we can overcome them? Perhaps I'll come to you, Alistair.
We do get approached by a lot of startups who are struggling to get access to foundries and get enough silicon with the global shortage in chips. So we're able to, with our technology, build less complex devices than with silicon, but often that is increasing all of the time. And one of the key reasons that startups work with us is because of the quick turnaround that they can have on from design to production. So we can take a design and manufacture it within just a couple of weeks. And then the other advantage of our technology is the ability to scale up to volume at very low cost. So we're helping to address the global shortage in chips by giving startups an opportunity to work in a new flexible technology platform.
Fantastic. And Paul, you spoke a little bit about your work in which you work very closely with startups. Are you seeing a similar opportunity as well as in the challenge?
Yeah, well, obviously, I also see the same challenge, the COVID shortage. This is probably that nobody can solve themselves, at least not in a fast way. However, I think it would or it could be a wise idea to exploit the crisis to use the time of the shortage to spend more time to think about the innovation itself, exploit the time, build up your network.
If I can jump in there, I think Paul makes a really good point around investing now in design and innovation. And whilst we see that foundry capacity might be a little way out, it doesn't stop us investing now in design work, particularly as we start seeing tools, virtualized tools that allow us to simulate designs and simulate performance of new hardware. So just because you can't get chips now doesn't mean you can't start designing the software on that and hitting the ground running when you start getting that foundry capacity later.
Absolutely. I think it's a very sort of startup ingredient of success to be able to look at that kind of long-term opportunity even in the face of a crisis. But I think this has been obviously such a period of crisis, and one of the things that it has also brought to light as an industry is the sort of the challenge of the digital divide. And we've got obviously all of you working to build some aspects of bridging that. So perhaps I could even invite Adil and Rich to comment on some of the digital divide side of things.
Yeah, I think when we think about the digital divide and how an entrepreneur can help fill that, right? We see this as, entrepreneurship is about, creative disruptions, like challenging the grain, changing the paradigm. All of which that brings new player to the market, changes the game a little bit, creates new opportunities and businesses, right? As we are particularly speaking about 5G and IoT, we at EdgeQ see opportunities in wireless infrastructure, which becomes reconstituted and disaggregated, where more players can come in the game and can work with each other to kind of bridge the digital divide. Private 5G is another vehicle to solve the same purpose in a kind of a different business that will drive new applications, spaces, and new use cases like industrial automation, fixed wireless. They are becoming more and more vogue as we talk. And last but not the least, business models and operating models that will need to adapt as the world is changing to a cloud-like model, right? In the previous generation, 3-4 years ago, data was collected at the edge and the IoT and was sent to the cloud to be processed. Now the world is changing. 5G is bringing cloud to the edge. So there's no need for the data to go to the cloud somewhere, 20 miles from where the data is generated to a cloud center, but rather it should be operated and worked on at the edge. So we see a lot of opportunities when you combine 5G with IoT to bring the digital divide that you talk about.
Absolutely.
I think Adil makes some kind of great points there. And just to kind of add to what he's already said, I think that the pandemic has really kind of changed our notion of where the digital divide actually lies. So, our work at Jangala has really been kind of focused initially on the refugee crisis, on providing that kind of much needed connectivity at the point at which the crisis is most acute. At the remote borders where, large movements of people occur across them, in the kind of camps that are created in regions that have no kind of existing kind of wireless infrastructure. And, many of the things that kind of Adil has been talking about are kind of, things that will be helpful there. I mean, we always want infrastructure that is smaller, cheaper, lighter, more flexibly deployable, can, overcome some of the legal restrictions, such as, the never-ending battle over kind of wireless licensing and so on. But I think the pandemic has really kind of changed our notion of where that divide is. So much of our work in the time of the pandemic has really been to try to kind of bridge the digital divide here in the UK, where suddenly we found that, there's a kind of income-mediated gulf in the ability to connect, and all of the kind of consequent things that happen from that, from impacts on health and education. And I mean, I guess kind of linking this into the future of technology. I mean, one of the things that we have found is that, for us to be able to innovate in the ways that we do, having access to the technology at at our fingertips in the context in which that innovation is needed is supremely important. And so my fear is that much of the advances that are happening today in artificial intelligence, in AI, in new models and balances between the cloud and the edge are going to be focused on the rich traditional economies of of high and middle income countries, and that if we want to truly generate the kind of innovation that will impact the lives of the people whose existence is going to be most marginal because of climate change and so on, we need to have a special effort at bringing access to those kinds of technology in an accessible fashion to those regions.
Fantastic. So that's sort of the impact of technology in a nutshell on all of our futures on a global scale. So thank you. That's a great sort of observation around both how the industry can deal with the kind of supply chain issue that we're facing, as well as the sort of societal and connected impact of technology. But I think talking about some of that completely new areas of disruption, perhaps we can go to my next question, which is around sort of this area that you all have already mentioned, but we start seeing influence all aspects of compute, which is artificial intelligence, and devices are getting smarter. Machine learning's coming to the edge, bringing the ability to actually do more efficient compute, and maybe have even design systems via developers who are truly ahead of the curve, really delivering products that will serve communities and countries in whatever scenario, whether it is the sort of long-term development scenario that Jangala works in, or even across the industry where it's truly kind of long arc of innovation. So perhaps can you share some thoughts about how startups can stay ahead of the curve on the machine learning innovation? And given, Mikhail, you live this space, I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Bea. I think you put it quite well, in the sense we've had, and the discussion so far has sort of talked around there being a lot of connected devices and innovation in that space for a little while now, and we're, I think, at the beginnings of a shift where we're going to more intelligent connected devices. And up until now, the kind of intelligence we've seen in the services that we might see as consumers or in industry has been sat in the cloud. We're now at the point where that's becoming possible in a distributed context, and perhaps this actually offers a few answers to some of the challenges Rich was posing around connectivity. Redistributing compute does give you some other options, but the challenge for startups here to take advantage of that opportunity space around edge AI or endpoint AI, depending how you want to call it, is the need to start developing on hardware and software together, and the kind of the co-design problems that come with that, and the challenges of optimizing for lots more objectives that you might have done before. So if you're a traditionally embedded person, you're thinking about power and performance and latency, but that completely changes and explodes when you start having to think about ML in the context of IoT. So I suppose to kind of wrap that up into a point to take away, it's about thinking really carefully about what is it actually you want to achieve out of those objectives, and really optimizing for that, and remembering actually that maybe you need to leave a bit of flexibility in mind as well as you make those decisions, because maybe you'll change your mind, because IoT is it's an infrastructure play just as much as it is a kind of compute play in the short run.
Absolutely. And I think you make a really, really interesting point about that, finding out what is it that you want to focus on, because that is something that is quite critical for startups to know where are they going to differentiate, particularly in this sort of disruptive space where there can be quite a lot of noise in the system as well. Any other perspectives on the opportunities for startups?
The machine learning innovation, what can be done to further enhance the machine learning innovation? We are seeing a convergence of compute and connectivity, particularly at the edge. When we look at the edge, we see a communication mechanism, call it 5G, 4G, or Rich would want to say HSPA, doesn't matter, connectivity, and compute, machine learning, right? Connectivity, the data needs to be processed where it is generated. The days are gone when data was to send to 20, 25 miles in a data center and processed there and brought back to the edge. The new use cases require much faster processing and much lower latency. Therefore, any connectivity mechanism, and we are at the head of the curve with 5G, needs to bring the cloud to the data, as we say, right? We see 5G enabling connectivity and compute at the edge, where the IoT data can be analyzed, synthesized, and communicated instantaneously and dynamically. So we believe that the next step of machine learning innovation is to combine it with connectivity and make a holistic solution for the edge.
So perhaps we can talk a little bit about, partnerships, because again, with the AI and IoT landscape, partnerships will be crucial to early stage startups. We just take the company that is hosting this, for example. Partnerships have been crucial to Arm's success, and a few of you already spoken about your partnerships within kind of the ecosystem. But how critical do you think are ecosystems in enabling the innovation across both the kind of hardware and software, particularly when it comes to AI and IoT, truly disruptive and advancing levels of technology?
So, it's Alistair. For pragmatic semiconductor, partnerships are absolutely critical. So, looking across the panel here, we work closely with Cambridge consultants on at least 2 projects, with imec as well on a number of projects, and hopefully with the other guys as well soon. But I think for us, it's critical to work in the way that Arm does with a series of partners around the world.
Organizations that have a really clear vision as to where they're going, what they want to achieve, and are communicating that, and what their role is within that vision, are well placed to be able to identify partners and align together, because really it's about co-creating ecosystems. Because as we said earlier, none of these complex products or services can exist on their own, and it's totally inefficient to do that. So if we can be clear about what we want to do, where we're headed, what our role is, we can find those partnerships to get to that goal.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the key elements to even like scaling startups, isn't it, Rich?
Yeah, I'll let you know in 2 or 3 years' time. No. I mean, I think these are all kind of fantastic points, and I mean, if I can offer a slightly different perspective, maybe it's to say that, in a sense, the reason that kind of Jangala chose its kind of charitably owned, not-for-profit structure was that we wanted to make it much easier for us to create partnerships with a number of different organizations, to be able to focus on our long-term goal, because of course your goal can shift without imperceptibly over time, and so we wanted to, in a sense, lock in our mission to focus our innovation on those areas where there's the most kind of significant, pressing and foreseeable humanitarian need. And so this has allowed us, I think, to create kind of fantastic partnerships with organizations like Arm, whose help is already kind of impacting our organization day to day, with a number of other kind of commercial entities around the world, and also in terms of our long-term customer base, which in many cases will be NGOs, multilateral organizations. It will be government departments and so on. And therefore, for us to be charitably owned, not for profit, to be able to have certain policies in place that will be enforced by a board of trustees, sticking to a purpose, it just allows us to think in the long term. And as a short-term thing, I think one thing I would say, and this was kind of noted earlier, I think one thing that startups do have is a terrific lack of nostalgia. So whereas the new normal happens and big organizations are just waiting for it to go back to normal again, the startup mentality is, hell, maybe it will never go back to normal again. What do we do here and now? And I think that is, probably a valuable thing to keep in mind.
It's a thing to treasure, because sometimes less tradition allows you to really break the kind of barriers of what's stopping an industry to truly innovate. So that perspective is absolutely golden. Well, thank you to all our panelists for sharing these rich insights today. And most importantly, thank you for watching. It has been a fascinating panel session, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the session at the start of the day as well. Coming up next is a fireside chat with Jack Ma, Vice President of Microsoft for Startups.